Welcome to another of the bite-sized training where I get to talk to my go-to experts, those people that I love to speak to, that I know are always there and are awesome at what they do. And today I am super excited to have Sue Thomas of Sue Thomas Wellbeing with me. Now, I've heard Sue speak many times and I never tire of hearing from her. So I'm so glad to have you here today.
Oh, thank you for
Sue.
having me. It's lovely to be here.
Now, I'm going to read your introduction, Sue, because I think I don't want to paraphrase it, and it just gets across the message really, really clearly. So you've been in the wellness industry for nearly 20 years and get so frustrated, which I think many of us do actually, by the confused messages the media like to create around managing long-term health. And that you believe that this has been really overcomplicated, creating overwhelm and failure when people are looking to improve their well-being. When actually following some simple nutritional guidelines, focusing on the right mindset for success, and moving more is the simplest formula to help someone create long-term well-being in a way that is right for them. And so I read that and I just went, that's it, isn't it? It's so simple when we decide it to be, and when we are allowed to make it simple. And I think that's what you're saying, isn't it? Why you're so frustrated.
I'm basically saying, if you want to take back control, you are completely powerful in doing that, because there's no cookie cutter approach to managing your health. It's got to be done based on what your body needs. So the whole approach is, let's start listening to our body and what our body's telling us. And that then can translate into your own blueprint for long-term well-being.
Do you think that's part of the problem with the industry, that we sort of decide that we've got to do something and then we're using someone else's blueprint formula and following it, as opposed to doing something for ourselves?
Yeah. So for so long now, we've been told, if you want to manage your weight, you've got to go to a slimming club. If you want to do this, you've got to want to exercise, you've got to go to a gym. And actually, it doesn't have to be like that, because a lot of people won't go to the gym because they don't actually like the gym environment. So there's a barrier there. They'll go, I'm not going to do that because I don't like the gym. Well, there's so many other things that you can be doing to improve your cardiovascular capacity and your long-term well-being from an exercise perspective. And equally as much, going to a slimming club where they sort of almost name and shame, which for me is, I just despise that completely. But if you go to a slimming club where it's a cookie cutter diet, but that diet doesn't work for every single woman in the room. So one lady might go, oh yeah, I've lost 1.5 stone, fantastic, in 8 weeks or whatever. But somebody else might have been doing exactly the same thing for 8 weeks and not lost a pound, because everybody's different. Everybody's got a different biology. And one of the things that we have done with 21st century life is we've lost the ability to listen to the body, the messages that our body's telling us. So if our body says, I feel tired and sluggish today and I feel a bit bloated, we don't go, oh, I feel tired and sluggish and bloated. What did I eat 2 hours ago that might made me feel like that? We just go, oh, I feel tired and sluggish today, and don't do anything about it. And actually, if we went back and unpicked what we had eaten to see what it was that was making us feel tired and sluggish, we would then know that actually that food doesn't work for me. So I'll give you a really good example. For me, I can't eat an orange without feeling starving 2 hours later, because oranges, for some reason, spike my blood sugars. And 2 hours later, I will be roaming around the kitchen trying to find something to eat to sate my appetite. So I know that oranges don't work for me. Now, everybody would go, well, oranges are really healthy. Well, of course they are really healthy. But for me, they don't work for my blood sugar balance. So I know that I can't eat an orange without it making me feel hungry and without it making me eat more. I know I can't eat pasta without it making me feel sluggish and tired. Eating a sandwich at lunchtime is going to make me feel rubbish at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, like I want to go for a sleep. And so I've got into a real habit of listening to what my body's telling me. So I know the foods that work for my body. And that's the one thing that I think we miss with 21st century health, is we almost need a list of all the things that we should be eating to lose weight. But actually, if 90% of the things on that list are things that don't work for your body personally, you're not going to lose weight. You're just going to end up causing huge blood sugar swings, loads of stress in the body, and you're just not going to make any progress. And so one of the things that I'm really passionate about doing is when I work with women, I don't give them this. A lot of women will say to me, well, do you have an eating plan? Well, no, I don't have an eating plan, because if you follow these simple guidelines and you listen to what your body's telling you, you'll create your own eating plan. So those guidelines are, first and foremost, is to keep a record of the food that you've eaten and how it's made you feel 2 hours afterwards. And if it made you feel energized and on form, then great. You know, if you're really focused and productive, then that food worked for you. But if you feel tired and sluggish and you want to go for a sleep, it didn't work for you. So don't do that one again. Try something else. So the first and foremost thing is to start tracking the kind of things that you're doing and how it's making you feel. And when you can get in touch with the messages your body's telling you, you're in a much stronger position to really start, as I said, creating your own blueprint. The second thing that I encourage women to do is or clients to do, I do tend to work with women, but this works for men as well as women, is to make sure first thing in the morning you're eating protein for breakfast. Now, the reason for that is first thing in the morning, your stomach's full of hydrochloric acid. If we eat a carbohydrate-based breakfast, we will spike our blood sugars very quickly. And we'll then be on a roller coaster of blood sugars throughout the course of the day, because our blood sugars will spike, we'll feel hungry, we'll eat something, and then, our blood sugars will spike, they'll crash, we'll feel hungry, they spike again, then they crash, and we're on this roller coaster of blood sugars. If we consume protein first thing in the morning, that protein will release the sugars into our bloodstream really slowly. So we have a much slower release of blood sugars, a much more constant insulin balance. And that really is key to eating really well throughout the course of the day, is having constant and stable blood sugars. So if you can get that first meal of the day right, that's going to have a knock-on effect for the rest of the day. So that's two really simple things that you can do straight away without even, you're not going anywhere to you're not getting any meal plans or anything like that. You're just looking at tracking how food makes you feel and eating protein for breakfast. And then the last thing I say to clients is look at how much crap, I use the analogy crap, but it's caffeine, refined sugar, alcohol, and processed food. So in that tracking process, look at how much alcohol am I consuming, how much coffee am I leaning on, how much processed food am I consuming, and start to make an association with how those things are making you feel as well. And gradually over the course of the week, you could go, right, okay, so I'm consuming 6 cups of coffee a day. Well, for this first week, I'm going to reduce it down to 5. And I'm only going to have 5 cups. And then the next week, I'm going to have 4. And I'm going to get it down to the point where I'm comfortable with just having 1 cup of coffee a day. Now, some people would go, oh, I can't even begin to imagine how I could do that. But if you replace that coffee with a glass of water, you'll find yourself becoming more energized and not leaning on coffee for energy. You'll start to become more hydrated and you'll be more energized. So by looking at where your crap is, caffeine, refined sugar, alcohol, processed food, and beginning to go, okay, so I had 3 processed meals this week. Next week, can I do 2? Can I just have 2 and then make sure I'm cooking the other meals from scratch? And then I also I can see that I'm having a bar of chocolate after my lunch every day. Because often we do that mindlessly. We don't even think about it, do we? So if you're recording everything, I can see that each day I'm craving sugar after my lunch. So I need to try and break that habit. So the first day, I'm actually going to have a glass of water and walk around the block for 10 minutes. So if I'm at work and I'm sitting at my desk and I'm eating and I've had my sandwich and I've had my packet of crisps and I'm now having a chocolate bar, actually what I'm going to do is kind of have my sandwich and my packet of crisps, and then I'm going to get up and go away from my desk, walk around the block, and then come back. And I'm not going to eat that chocolate bar. I'm not even going to buy it in the first place, just on that one day. And then the next week, you can do it on 2 days. And gradually you start to make those habit changes without it feeling like it's too overwhelming. Because so many of us wake up on Monday morning and go, oh, I've had a terrible weekend. I've got to get my health under control. I'm on it again. Monday morning, I'm on it. And by Wednesday, we've given up. And the reason we've given up is because it's all too overwhelming.
Yeah, it's too hard.
Yeah, rather than just going, every Monday morning, I've got to get back on it again. Just going, okay, what one thing can I change this Monday morning that's going to make a difference? longer term. The cost of a good habit, the cost of a good habit, or a cost of a bad habit. No, the other way around. The cost of a good habit is felt in the moment. The cost of a bad habit is felt way into the future in the long term. So if you can create that good habit today, yes, it costs you now because you're not eating that chocolate bar at lunchtime, but actually the benefits of not eating that chocolate bar are felt way into the future than if you are just eating that chocolate bar and forgetting about it. Because every day you eat that chocolate bar, you're contributing to your cardiovascular health, your waistline expanding, poor quality sleep, your blood sugar levels going all over the place. So there's loads of things you could do very simply. The first is to have to record everything that you're consuming, even if it's just for a week, and see if you can see those patterns and how food's making you feel. The second is to make sure you're having protein for breakfast and trying to balance your blood sugars out. And the third then is to look at where you're consuming that crap, caffeine, refined sugar, alcohol, processed food, and how can you gradually begin to change some of those habits. Over the course, it might take you 6 months to change those habits, but it doesn't matter. At least you're moving in the right direction to change some of those habits.
That's what I love about you, Sue, and it's why I love listening to you, because you just make it really simple, and you're it's not just about making it simple, it's making us who are listening go, actually, I could do that. And I can see that, and I don't have to change everything, and it doesn't have to be life-changing. And that's what I love, because the title, because I always ask for sort of a title or a key point, and yours was how the gut impacts our mindset, daily productivity and sleep. But from what you've already shared, I can immediately see that if we're feeling better, if we're more energized, if we're leveling out, because we're bound to sleep better. Yeah. I'm going to take a wild guess. Our productivity is going to be much better. So it's the mindset bit I'm really interested in. So the gut impacting our mindset.
Yeah. So our intestine is basically our second brain. So we've actually got three brains. We've got the heart brain, the brain, and the gut brain. But there is a direct link between the intestine and the brain. It's called the vagus nerve. So when we are eating rubbish food and we're not drinking enough water and we're sitting around too much, our intestine can become really quite sluggish and not be moving through on a regular basis. It can also, when we're experiencing a lot of stress, when we're eating a lot of inflammatory foods, like a lot of sugar, that can have an impact on the balance of the bacteria in our intestine. So we've got all these bacteria that live in our intestine. They're called the microbiome, and they're kind of fundamental to life. They're the foundation to our health. All those bacteria together tell our body how to kind of respond to things, either in a good way or in a bad way. Now, we should have 80% good bacteria, 20% bad bacteria. Yeah. And often what happens for most people is the swing is the other way. We have about 80% bad bacteria. And that has an impact.
Sorry, Sue, but that's a big swing.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Sorry to interrupt, but I almost, in my head, I was going, did I just hear that right?
Yes, you did. 80% bad, 20% good. And that is because we consume too much processed food, we consume too much alcohol, we consume too much sugar, and we're just basically not feeding the good bacteria the food that it needs on a daily basis. So there's that bacteria imbalance in our intestine, and that bacteria is basically communicating with the rest of our body. It's telling our immune system how to function. It's telling us how to balance our hormones. It's what weight to hold on to. It's really crucial having that bacterial balance. If it's 80% good bacteria, then you're going to be heading towards really good health. If it's 80% bad bacteria, then your health is going to be really compromised. And that bacteria is compromised by so many things, let's say sugar, exposure to toxins, medications, etc., etc. So when our intestine is not functioning efficiently because we're sitting, we're not drinking enough water, we're eating a lot of rubbish foods, we're not feeding, we're not nurturing all those bacteria in our intestine, the relationship between our intestine and our brain starts to break down a little bit. That bad bacteria starts to tell the brain all the wrong things, starts to tell the brain really negative messages. We start to feel rubbish, and it all links back to the health of that bacteria in our intestine. So having our intestine functioning efficiently and having the good bacteria really not populated and really well fed, that then the messages that get sent to the brain are positive messages. And this all sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's science. Yeah. You know, they are positive messages being sent to the brain, and we feel more optimistic, we feel more confident in ourselves, we have a lot more mental clarity, we feel productive, and so we want to succeed on a daily basis. And so the person that has a really slow motility, a real slow movement of waste through their intestine because they're consuming too many too much junk food, too much sugar, etc. The bad bacteria is really dominant, and the waste is moving through really slowly. That person is almost helpless to control their feelings. Their feelings come out as negative feelings. Whereas when our intestine is working efficiently, it's moving waste through efficiently, the bacteria is really nicely populated, we're drinking plenty of water, then the messages that are coming to the brain are really positive ones. If you think about stagnant water, it's not very nice. Well, that's essentially what happens in the intestine when the motility of the waste slows down. It stagnates, it ferments, it goes a bit yucky, and those emotions come out, and that affects our productivity. It means it creates brain fog. It creates an irritability, so we can't cope with things can't cope with stress as effectively. Whereas when we've got a really healthy functioning intestine on a day-to-day basis, things that might have stressed us before just don't bother us, because we're much more balanced, much more stable, and able to function more efficiently on a daily basis.
It's fascinating listening to you, because we seem to have a whole industry of people that have linked food to diet and weight loss, or diet stroke weight loss, whichever way you want to look at it. But listening to you, it's so much more than that. It's your whole being. And it's so interesting how some of the work I'm doing now with my clients is, while I am a business coach, I'm looking at all the different areas of their life, including health, well-being, etc. Because it is everything. It's all areas, and everything's interconnected. But what you're saying today has really made me think about the importance of the good, healthy living, eating, exercising, and the power that has in making us quite literally being able to do anything, because we are looking after ourselves. And I love that idea of the messages, and it makes so much sense when you think about people that have low mood, that they start to eat and then they just make it worse, the wrong signals, so they eat more. And what you have explained today has really made so many things clearer for me, actually, in understanding the connection between what we eat. And I guess the reason I'm going, oh, and there's all these light bulbs, is because I'm not a really good eater. I don't eat particularly well. We were talking before we started that, for the last 7 days, I've had breakfast. I've never had breakfast. It's just not in my psyche. And I'm not, I'd have one meal a day. And when the kids were little, that would be at 10 o'clock at night, and not really eat and drink lots and lots of coffee.
Yeah.
No wonder I was like all over the place, and like, everything just, I'm like, no wonder everything was so hard.
You were functioning on caffeine, basically. And so many people do function on caffeine because they think, what I need is that caffeine hit to give me the energy to be able to function throughout the course of the day. But actually supporting your body with good nutrients and good food, and replacing the coffee with water, you can have far more energy than you do if you're just drinking coffee throughout the day. A client I worked with recently came to me, and she was drinking 3 cans of Diet Coke. She was having a little bit of breakfast, 3 cans of Diet Coke through the course of the day to try and keep her energy levels up, but she wasn't eating lunch. And then she was having a meal in the evening, and she couldn't lose weight. And all we did was, we kept the breakfast the same, but we took out the Diet Coke and we started to add in lunch. And to begin with, that was really a really simple lunch in the form of a smoothie, because that's all she could kind of get her head round. But once we started adding the lunch in there, and we took the Diet Coke out, she started to lose weight. She had so much more energy. Her immune system was so much better. She didn't keep getting colds all the time. She could cope with stressful situations at work. And, never underestimate how important it is to nourish the body, to be productive, to have, a strong immune system, to be able to sleep well at night, to have balanced hormones. Nourishing the body is so important. Again, like you said, Ben, we've got into this mindset of, actually, if I want to to lose weight. If I'm going to get healthy, I need to lose weight. So therefore I need to take food out of my diet. And that is the worst thing you can do. You know, I need to take all these calories. We end up counting calories. And I actually say, let's not count calories. If you want to count something, count nutrients. Focus on making sure you've got plenty of nutrients on your plate. You can't go wrong if you're counting nutrients, because you're nourishing your body and making sure that you've got everything your body needs every single day to be able to function efficiently. You take all those nutrients out and your body can't function. So the messages it's sending you are, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I need you to consume something. So our automatic response is, I'll either consume chocolate or I'll consume caffeine.
Sweet.
And it's a downward spiral.
You've said some really interesting things for me. And I think the fruit thing was quite interesting, because I'm like, oh, my kids eat loads of fruit. But I'm like, but they're always hungry.
Yeah.
And I think, well, they're growing and everything else. But I'm actually going to look at that, because it could possibly be that they're eating fruit and then they're just hungry, like you were saying.
Spiking their blood sugars.
Yeah.
You can manage the fruit bit by always having fruit with some protein. So because there's lots of benefits to consuming fruit. So don't necessarily take it all out. But if they have it with some cheese or some nuts or some other form of protein, you can usually slow the release of those sugars down. And they can still consume some fruit, but they have it with some protein rather than just having the fruit on its own. And then, like you say, always being hungry.
I think for me as well, there's something else around eating as a family for me. And that's really important. I think we're in this world that just feels so fast paced, and it's all sort of grab and go and not having that time. And one of the things, and in fact, it was in this challenge that I'm doing with my walking and everything, it's, we really must sit at the table. And I think in lockdown, we'd really got out of a habit, particularly when it was winter time and we were just quite happy on the sofa and hadn't been anywhere.
Yeah.
But now I said, we really must be at the table. And actually, what we notice is our children eat better at the table, as in they eat a greater selection, they eat a better meal. But the benefits go way beyond that. It's just really lovely to sit with you, with your children or your loved one, whoever. So there's so much wrapped up in this. And I just feel what you've shared today about this connection between your gut and everything is almost, if you can just understand that, but it will help you to go, okay, so what do I need to do?
Yeah.
And again, Sue, you're always about simplicity, and you're always about making it easy so that we can do it and we want to do it. And I'm just wondering how quickly people see the benefit of doing it in this way as opposed to something else.
Yeah. So if you were to do what we said at the beginning, which is to start journaling your food, so start recording what food you're consuming and seeing how it's making you feel. And then looking back at that week and going, oh my goodness, I can see that I'm having too much sugar there and I'm drinking too much coffee here. And then taking those steps to make those slight changes. Yeah. I have clients that will see changes in 7 days, starting to replace a cup of coffee with a glass of water and becoming more hydrated. They'll start to see less bloating. They'll start to feel more energized. They'll start to see better sleep. That's not to say that you can change everything in 7 days, but you'll certainly start to feel like you've got more energy. You might notice that your skin becomes a bit clearer and less puffy and things like that. So, if you start to make some changes, some gradual changes that you feel as an individual you can cope with, but don't just make them once and then forget about them. Make that commitment to go, I'm going to do that every Monday morning. I'm going to make that one change every Monday morning and implement it for the rest of the week. And then the next week, I'm going to find another change, another small change that I can make and implement that for the rest of the week. And gradually those changes will build up to be long-term habit changes. But in just making one small change, so if it was to take your chocolate bar out of your lunch and not have a chocolate bar at lunchtime, you'll almost instantly see more energy through the course of the afternoon. So already you'll be more productive and you'll feel better about yourself. And then the next week, the change that you make could be not to have the chocolate after your evening meal or not to have dessert or something. And then the following week, it could be that you're only going to have 1 cup of coffee in the morning and not have a cup of coffee in the afternoon. And the next week, it could be that you're going to start drinking a litre of water a day. Little changes like that will gradually build up to be big, long-term, moving in the right direction to better well-being. There's a really good analogy. If you're consuming a burger and chips today, okay, today it's not going to have an impact. If you consume that burger and chips tomorrow, it's not going to have an impact. And if you're still consuming it in 3 weeks' time, yeah, it might be having a bit of an impact on your waistline, but long-term well-being. If you're doing that in 2 years' time, that burger and chips every day, you're going to be facing serious cardiovascular health, serious weight gain, possibly type 2 diabetes, that kind of thing. But then it works the same way. If you take that chocolate bar out of your lunch today, you won't see any difference today, and you won't see any difference tomorrow. But you might start to notice some energy by the end of the week. And if you're doing it in 2 years' time, you're going to be seeing considerable impact on your waistline, on your energy levels, on your sleep, all that kind of thing. So it is all about not seeing what this habit is that I'm dealing with in the moment here, not seeing it as a one-time thing, seeing it as a long-term change, but just making those small habit changes. Just once a week, make one habit change and keep trying to do that. But you're only going to know what those habit changes need to be if you keep a record over the course of the week of what you've eaten, and then you can see where you need to start making some changes. And
you're very much about, this is long term, isn't it? This is making a difference to your life. It's not short term. It's not,
it's not quick fix. No. It's not waving a magic wand and making it all better.
No. It's interesting.
That's the other thing. We have to take responsibility for that as individuals. We've kind of, we try to sort of outsource everything. So we try to outsource our health as well. And actually, you can't outsource your health. You've got to take responsibility for it for yourself. And you've got to make those changes to those small habit changes every single week in order to build up to that long-term change.
And I can really vouch for those small habit changes. In fact, I've just using a new type of planner, and it has there on my habits for the week. So I've been writing, drink more water, have breakfast. And because it's on there, it's a reminder. And I've really stuck to it because I really want to get to the end of the day and be able to tick those two things. And absolutely, by drinking less coffee and drinking more water, I do feel better, more energized. And even my husband said to me this morning, because I'm not really a morning person, he said, you were really quite chirpy this morning. I said, I know, I had a terrible night's sleep coughing. So even though I've not been sleeping very well because I've got the sore throat, I'm still waking up quite energized. So I can really, advocate for these small changes, and that drinking more water, absolutely.
Hydration is key to energy, definitely.
So I knew you would be amazing and fascinating to talk to. And I also knew that you would share with us that understanding of small changes, and that it can be easy if we choose it to. And I think you've ended on a really good note. It is about responsibility. We can't advocate that responsibility. We have to take responsibility for it, for ourselves. But actually the long-term benefits are amazing, and that's not just a benefit to us, but to our loved ones and family and everyone. And I think that's a great place to finish. So Sue, thank you so much for sharing as you have today. It has been, for me, it's been, I almost said life-changing then. There's so many things pinging in my head, so I know that others will get lots of benefit from hearing from
you're very
you.
welcome.
So thank you so much.
I always love chatting to you, Lindsay.
Just before you go and we finish off, Sue, what's your website address so people can go and visit your new website, which is looking very beautiful?
Thank you. It's SueThomasWellbeing.co.uk, and there's lots of there's a freebies tab there that you can click on, and you can join my Facebook group. You can book a free clarity call with me. I run regular sugar-free challenges, so there's a number of things that you can do there just to find out a little bit more about me. You can sign up to my 5 Steps to Fabulous ebook, which you can just download straight away. So there's lots of ways to kind of find out a little bit more about how I work, and then I run regular group programs three times a year, but also monthly programs as well. So there's lots of ways to work with me. Just head over to my website, and you'll find all those ways on there.
Lots of ways to get in touch with you, to connect with you, and to work with you. Sue, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, you're very welcome, Lindsay. Thank you for having me.